welcome to Deals with Heels. I'm Deborah.
And I'm Christina.
We are happy you're with us. Thank you for joining us today. We have a guest with us.
Yes, our first guest of season 2.
First guest of the season.
Excited.
She is an Amazon best-selling author and the founder of Pathway Coach Writing. She's passionate about the diverse ways that people communicate, whether that's through text, books, letters, media content, pictures, or websites. She really aims to inspire other authors, editors, businesses, entrepreneurs to express themselves and publish across various platforms confidently.
Yes.
Please join me in welcoming Venchele Saint Dic. Yeah. Welcome.
Welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have such a unique background. You've got a lot of creativity in there, but then with all of the health stuff is much more analytical and more kind of admin, more meat and potatoes of how things operate operationally, I think. And it feels like you're kind of gravitating towards a more kind of creative writing sort of part of you. And I've embraced my creativity a lot in the last 5 years. And so I can appreciate that. And I'm curious how you came to writing and being a writing coach, how you've come to see that as a way to empower the people that you want to influence and your clients that you help.
Absolutely. So when it comes to writing, I sort of stumbled on it when I was in college because there were so many students asking me for content feedback. And to be honest with you, at the time, I didn't really think, or at least at the time, I don't think that it was sort of broadcasted that people could make a living out of it. And so I didn't really take it seriously. I mean, if I'm going to be very honest, at first. And then the pandemic happened. And I think that's when one of my friends told me, after I helped her out with one of her projects, and she ended up just, getting a standing ovation on this project. And she said to me, Venchele, I think that you should seriously consider building a website and really putting yourself out there, because I've been in the industry for more than 8 years. So I was doing, getting most of my clients through referrals. But then she said to me, I had to make it more concrete. And so that's how Pathway Coach Writing was born, at least the website, before the pandemic. But I do believe, too, that in order to be a great writer, you have to be an avid reader. And in life, it's not necessarily when we're going to use writing as a branding strategy, it's not so much what you say that matters, it's what people hear. And I believe that I had a gift for it, and I wanted other people to see it as a tool or as an opportunity where they could leverage their brand. And so that's the reason why I decided to be part of this movement. And then also I would be remiss to say that in addition to helping clients, the reason why I even started Pathway Coach Writing was because I felt that there were certain groups of people, like women, who were sort of left out in the periphery of the writing editing industry. And I wanted to amplify the voices of women, but also people who struggle with mental health, people with disabilities. So essentially folks that you don't typically hear from in the writing industry, or if you do hear from them, I don't know if you've ever gone through this experience. Like when you read a book, you can tell if it's authentically that person's voice or if someone else wrote it on their behalf. And so I just said to myself, no, I don't think it's doing these people any justice. So that's the reason why I decided to do this.
I see that a lot, and I write copy for advertising and marketing, and I see a lot of people that struggle to really showcase their own brand and to speak in their own authentic voice. And it's so important in advertising. So if you hire a social media marketing company and they can make all kinds of ads for you, but if your audience doesn't recognize it as your voice, then they're just not going to be effective. And so there's a lot of different kinds of coaches out there. And a writing coach, I just have to say that I think that would be invaluable. I can think of a lot of people who would benefit from that.
Oh, yes.
And what really kind of brings me to you, Christina, are you feeling vulnerable?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So we're going to make this truthfully about me, because I know that that's what she's trying to say. One thing that you said that stood out to me is because this season is all about being unstoppable and being our truest form of self and being authentic. And, as we have been working on that, I have a hard time. It's all in here. Getting that out on paper is very difficult for me. And I am really trying to, and I think now more than ever, you really are starting to see that this is who I am. But this is why this journey is so important, because I never was my truest form of self. And so many people, I don't think that they do it intentionally of not writing from an authentic place, is they truly don't know who they are to be writing from an authentic place. And, they just kind of follow the masses because the masses is what's working type thing. So I love what you're doing. My creativity is already spinning, because I know what I want to say and I know how I want it to be. Just getting it, those fine tuning and techniques are so important. And I think it's also who you work with. I love that you talked about this really wasn't something that you really even thought could be a business, because what I'm in now, I actually didn't want to do. I mean, I didn't want to do. And so it's so amazing to me. And that's why we did this season the way we did, is for people like you that want to genuinely bring out our truest form of self and bring it to the world. Like when I was reading all of your stuff and I got on your Instagram yesterday, we were looking at your Instagram and one of your songs, I was like, oh my God, I'm calling her. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. It's just a song.
But one of the things that we were talking about too is when I was writing copy for you, you asked me, how do you know how to do that? Well, I learned how to do that in college, but where do you go to learn how to do that as an adult?
Yes. And that is something.
Such a great thing, honestly. Such a need out there for it. And to have somebody that you can refer someone to.
Oh, yeah. Because from my background, I didn't go to college. And I had a very, very difficult time in English in school and things like that. So I quit learning. I quit growing. And so now I'm almost 40. I'm playing catch up in the sense of reading and, being able to find my true voice in those aspects.
I'm curious, Venchele, what are some common challenges that you see pretty much amongst most people when it comes to writing? What's some of the common struggles that they have?
I think you've covered it a little bit, because as I was listening, I was also thinking about my experiences with my clients. You do bring up a great point. I think when I work with my clients, it's very important before you dive into the writing process to find out where they are in their lives, how they seeing themselves, like what are their core values. Because ultimately, in order to even speak from an authentic place, just like you did right now, and thank you so much for saying or for sharing with me part of your story, is really giving people not necessarily assignments, but giving them something that they can actually do. I believe in really utilizing people's strength and drawing from those strengths, to get their stories out. And so one of the challenges with, some of my clients and other people I've met along the way is really doing the reflection work. So again, it's really what I've seen over time for the past 5 years is that there is a need, to cater to the masses. There is this need to sort of, move towards conversational language versus, like, for example, and I can think about right now, I'm thinking about our forefathers. But, again, to move towards conversation language and move away from the traditional way, the flowery, language that was used like way back when in letters. And so I think that, sometimes people sacrifice, their unique voices, to cater to the masses. And I tell them not to do that, because we're missing out on really hearing the story as it took place. We're missing out, nuances that cannot be captured in conversational language. And I think that's one of the problems with emails and text messages. No matter how convenient they may be, there is a difference between brevity and clarity. Emails, rewards brevity, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting your points across. Which is why people will always tell you that after 3 or 4 exchanges, if you see that there's a misunderstanding, just pick up the phone and call the person. And there's a reason for that.
There is. I think about authenticity and success. It's such an important factor in success. In fact, they've done multiple studies that talked about qualities for the most successful people in the world and what do they have in common and what is the most that stands out the most. And it's not grit and it's not talent and it's not intelligence. It's none of those things. Yeah. It's authenticity. And that's why you can look at things like the Honey Boo Boo show and it be such a big hit, or Duck Dynasty, because they're so authentically themselves and we're curious. And it's hard to embrace that when the world, everyone's so scared of someone judging you. That's why you have to find that authenticity.
That is, I actually put that on my Facebook this morning. I have felt judged my whole life, and I am now doing something that I want to do, and it's a very controversial to some people, but I feel so right doing it. And guess what? That's all that matters. At the end of the day, I lay my head down and I feel good about it. Guess what? If I can help one single person through my stories, through my troubles, my triumphs, if I can help one person get out of bed or make that action plan, then guess what? At the end of the day, I get to lay my head down and know that I did the best I could.
Speaking about action plans, I have to ask for some actionable tips that we can give our audience that will help them be better writers and help them kind of step into their voice, those first steps that they can take. What do you recommend?
I think the first step is really taking the time to understand your core values, to understand what is it that you're trying to convey, to your audience. And I'm a firm believer, like in terms of trying to do that, I believe in matrices. I believe in tables. To make sense of the information that you're trying to.
There's that hospital meds admin stuff coming out in you, isn't it? The operations are coming out in you, Venchele.
I believe in bullet points. Let me tell you. I mean, again, especially when people are going through. I like to say their writing muse is out of commission. When your writing muse is out of commission and all you can think of is like, okay, you can think of your ideas in snippets, I think it's definitely helpful to just, not to dismiss it, but just to put these notes and bullet points, whether it's a PowerPoint, whether it's like Evernote or Word document, but just to have it there, because what happens over time is that our minds, like the neurons, are trying to make a connection between these disparate words or terms or ideas to help you get to a story. So I say that, whether you're sitting in your car, whether you're at home, if you have any ideas, definitely put it somewhere. I know for me, and I wanted to show that to people, like I have this bin where I literally put all of my ideas. I write it down. I place it there. Because I know at a certain point, my mind, like after I meditate for a while, that some ideas will come, like for future articles and books and what have you. So that works for me, but I don't know if it would work for everyone, but that's something I encourage my clients to do.
I'm feeling a little vulnerable in this point, right?
Yes.
I'm a very creative person, and when I have creative flow state happening, it just is coming out. It's coming out fast, and I've got to get it.
Okay.
Christina gets the most random text messages. Taylor, our producer, got some text messages late at night because when it's coming, I've got to get a little jar.
I know. You know, one
We
thing.
can bedazzle it.
We can, but and I am constantly, right now, my whole kitchen is completely of my vision board for the next 90 days of what I want my life to look like and what I need to accomplish. And I mean, it's literally, I just I use gift wrap and put it up. But I want to touch on something. On our last episode, we talked about the 30-day challenge of meditating. And you just talked about, meditating. How is meditation part of your daily practice, and how does it help you?
I think for me, meditation has been my lifeline. Just because, again, when I think about my life, when I think about the trauma that I've experienced and I've had to overcome since the age of 12, because I was born in the States. But I grew up in another country. There was civil unrest. And so my family made the painful decision to, bring me to the States, but leave me behind, in a way.
They left you in the United States?
Issue.
They left you in another country by yourself here in the United States?
Yes, I was in the States. I was living with a host family, but I practically raised myself.
Wow.
Because there was civil unrest. My father was getting his PhD. I couldn't live with him on campus. My mother was trying to make ends meet, and make sure that this host family has the funding to take care of me. But practically, I've been raising myself since the age of 12. Before, I was reunited with my family. And so when I think of these struggles, and can you please remind me of the question again? I'm sorry, I got lost in my thoughts.
She asked about meditation and how you use it in
meditation played a huge role in terms of not only healing the trauma, but also helping me be in tune with the places that I may not have addressed or may have been suppressed for a long period of time. Because I believe that your best writing comes from the most painful moments in your life. And that has helped me tremendously. And then I do it every day. Again, I don't do an hour worth of meditation. It could be 15 minutes, in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, something like that. But it's just to get me into that creative space and to recenter and ground myself. Because I think that for people like us, who are doing amazing things, who are go-getters, movers and shakers of the world, we juggle a lot. We wear many hats. And I think sometimes you can get lost in a maze. And so meditation allows me to just say, okay, let me just breathe. And I am okay in my world right now. It's okay if I don't answer that email right now. I just need to take care of me, because if I don't take care of me, I won't be able to take care of everyone else around me. So it helps definitely with self-awareness.
I would agree with that. I meditate every day as well. Sometimes I will meditate for 45 minutes, but usually it's because I've gotten into a deep meditative state and I've lost track of time. But for me, it is a way that I really process the day without thinking about it. It's a time that kind of like painting does for me too, that I can process emotions without having to put a lot of thought into it and digest and get into that mode of overthinking and figuring out why I did this or why this happened. It just lets it kind of soothe itself and be processed and be gone without having to have all that overthinking. Definitely, it changed my life. I've been meditating for about 13 years and it has changed my life.
Yeah, and I'm more new to the meditation. My
Okay.
ADHD tended to gets the best of me. I do a lot, like I sleep with meditation music through the whole night. And then
Yes.
I get up in the mornings before anybody else gets up and kind of go outside and just be one with
Fun.
self. But definitely need to do a little better. But a lot of mine comes, I do a lot of writing, but it's a lot of it is chicken scratch is what I.
I'm curious how you use journaling. Do you use journaling as kind of meditation and processing thoughts? And how does that affect someone's writing when they journal?
Um, that's a very great question. I think that when people decide, to use the journaling technique as a form of meditation, it can bring out, again, some residual feelings from past experiences, especially if that's what they're going to write in their book. And sometimes that can be painful. I typically tell my clients when they're going to do that, if they have gone through just again, like through trauma that has been left unresolved, they may want to seek therapy to do this with a therapist so that they can process their own thoughts. Because I think like that's one misconception about coaching. I always have to remind my clients that coaching is not therapy. And so again, again, as a steward of trust, I, I take it upon myself. Like if I feel like at a certain point in the project where it gets to be too much, it's too emotionally heavy to give people the space and the grace and for me to tell them like, hey, if you want, to process this with someone else before coming back to me, like that's okay. This is part of the writing journey. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And we're here to, to give you or for me to get you to a place where you write something that you're proud about, right? And again, that's my way of being responsible because I'm not medically trained, to even give advice on how they should process their thoughts in that way.
I like that. I went through a lot of counseling after my mother died, and it
Um,
really it helped me. It helped me a lot to be able to do that. As I own an advertising agency, so I'm curious if you work with a lot of small businesses, maybe for how to better tell their story, help them with their branding and their marketing copy. Do you do a lot of that as well?
yes, I do a lot of that. Interestingly enough, like most of the projects that I've worked on are with restaurants, C-level executive suites. But these individuals are sort of in a different category. They're leaving corporate America and really trying to build their own nonprofit organizations. And so that's a different conversation because when I work with them, I talk about the impact of that transition. And then instead of because, sometimes when people go through a transition, they want to run away from that. They want to run away from talking about it. But I really help them hone in that story because I think people always want to hear a good hero story. Like, how
Oh,
did you make
yes.
it out of corporate America? And how did that make you feel? Um, did it make you bitter or did it make you better? And either
Ooh.
way, tell us about it. Tell us that story, right? Because it can empower someone else to make that move as well. And if they decide to stay, like to really understand their why.
And that I truly, the why is sometimes really hard for people. They don't know what they want. They don't know what their why is. Why are they really doing
Uh,
it? Because if your why is not strong enough, it is not going to be able to get you through those hard times. That's why I feel so many people end up giving up right before the beauty is because they don't know really what they're fighting for, what they want to do. This season is all about becoming unstoppable. So what could you give our viewers on how you became unstoppable in your writing and what can they do to become unstoppable in their growth and in their journey?
um, I think that part of embracing their own journey, would mean that people need to stop getting in their own way and blocking out the noise. Because there's always going to be there's always going to be that one special person who doesn't agree with how you're living your life, has something essentially nitpicks your story or tries to make you feel bad, is very judgmental. And I say that when this happens, in whatever season you find yourself in, have the courage to let go of these situations and let go of these people. Take the lessons. Definitely take the lessons that you've learned.
But as my grandma said, don't choke on the bones. I said, as my grandma said, don't choke on the bones.
Yep.
Exactly. And then get to a point, and that's where the whole introspection piece comes into play. Get to a point where you're okay with your decisions. I mean, no one is going to have it. I mean, even for me as a recovering perfectionist, and I'm saying this lightly, I'm not perfect. I'm flawed as well. Okay, yes, show of hands. Like if you're flawed, yes. I'm very flawed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that once you get to that place where you say, you know what, even if I'm flawed, even if I'm afraid that I'm going to do it anyway, it opens a door. It removes that burden, from your shoulders. And I think that's where your true self can really shine on paper and in real life. And what I've learned through from the law of attraction, the law of manifestation, is that once you do that, once you make these tiny changes in your life, everything else is going to change. It's like a domino effect. The people around you are going to change. The situations are going to change, because whatever is operating at a low vibrational energy, it just cannot meet you where you are. And so that's why I'm a firm believer of not overstaying in my season. So if I'm in a given season with like 4 people and 2 of them have to go, like I'm not going to resist. I mean, I'll be sad. I'll mourn the loss of these friendships, but I know that it's for my greater good. The universe always works for you. It doesn't work against you. Always. And so that's what I've had to hone in, even in my own trauma, and realize that everything I've been through has prepared me for this moment. Because in order to be a better advocate for other people, you would have had to go through something painful too, to be able to relate to them. And I know it's an unpopular answer, but that's
I think
how I feel.
But here's the thing is, in order to be unstoppable, we do have to have the unpopular answer, and we do need to seek our truest form of self. Yeah. And I 1000% agree with you. The universe is going to give you what you need and what you want, but you have to clear out the blocks. You have to clear out the traumas. You have to get that mindset right, or it's not going to happen.
Well, we're coming to the end.
Yes.
You have been such a fantastic guest. We're so grateful to have you. If our audience wants to learn more about your coaching business or your story, what's the best way for them to do that?
So the best way to reach me is through LinkedIn and all other social media channels. And then also for people to maybe visit my website and learn a little bit more about my mission. Because again, you're meeting me at a juncture where I'm rebranding my website. And so everything I've shared on the podcast, I'm actually living it. I'm taking a pause. I'm thinking about my core values. I'm thinking about, okay, like what has worked in the past seasons? What hasn't worked? What do I need to pay attention to so that I can add value? That's always the point of any services that you're providing. You want to add value to the person in front of you, because guess what? At a certain point, I was also a consumer. And so I would want someone to do that for me. So I treat people the way I want myself to be treated. And so I hope it resonates with people, and that I find my kindred souls along the way for sure.
I think you definitely will. You have the great mindset for it. You fit very well with Christina and I, and we're so grateful that you were a guest. You can find all of Venchele's links in our show notes, and links to Christina and I's business and to the Deals with Heels website. You can send questions to us, and we can always forward them to Venchele as well at dealswithheels.com.
Yes.
And that's it.
That is it.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks
for being a great guest, Venchele. And we're out.
We're out.